welcome. We have Liz from Captivate Collective here, and she is going to talk to the CAP Awards finalists about advocacy program brands. I said that right. And we're going to hear about their stories and their experiences, and I'm really excited about it. Go ahead, Liz.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have more people coming in as we do these. We've really enjoyed doing these spotlight series. It's been a lot of fun. I'm so glad Mary asked us to do these because we have the best discussions on this. So we host well, you may or may not know, we have the CAP Awards that we host. We've had them 4 years running. I lose track. We have 7 different categories where we did last year. We're thinking of adding one next year. And it's just wonderful. There's so much goodness that we get to see that not everyone else gets to see with award programs. And I just hate that because people put in so much effort into their applications. And this was very competitive this year. And so even if you made it to a finalist position, that means there was so much good work. And I wanted to make sure that everyone got a chance, if they're interested in these topics, to hear about them. So today we do have advocacy program brand, and we do have Evan Jacobs with us from Chainalysis. Evan, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself in a minute. And we had scheduled Shrithka, who was also one of our finalists, but I'm not sure she's going to make it today. So that is totally fine because Evan, as he knows, because I told him, had an amazing application, and I love his story. So I'm excited to dig into that as kind of our case study for today. But first, I want to introduce my companion over from Captivate Collective, Bianca Del Vecchio. She's a senior strategist over with us, or a principal consultant with Captivate Collective, and she is my partner in crime today to pepper Evan with test his knowledge to see if he really deserved his finalist position. Just kidding. We love you. And so Bianca, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Thanks, Mary, for hosting us. Hello, everyone. Really excited to hear from Evan today. Evan, nice to see you again. We're going to talk all about your program brand, and I love this category, so I am really excited for this talk today.
Yeah, Bianca and I really do love this category. So we're big fans, and that's why I wanted Bianca on here to talk to us with us today about this as well. All right, so we're going to hop over to Evan Jacobs, who is the Director of Customer and Partner Marketing, like I said, at Chainalysis. Evan, what is one fact that you would like everyone to know about you?
Oh, wow. My weekends are much busier than my week. So people say, oh, like go relax you have like relaxing weekend. I'm like, hell no, I don't even think I sit down for like between like Friday night at 6 and like Sunday night at 10. So that's a good one. There you go.
Okay. Awesome. So we're going to talk to Evan about his program brand. And I think that you guys will love this story like we do. But please, it's a conversation. So, thank you for being here. Please ask questions. Please ask Evan about things that are unclear, or, things you're thinking about with your own programs. You absolutely should make the most of your time here with him today, because he has been in this space for a long time. We should just even mention that Evan also won an award last year's CAP Awards, a very prestigious one, Advocacy Mindset. And so he is not just he is a thinker in this space, and you should make the most of that. So thank you, Evan, so much for coming here and being with us. And so how I want to start this out is I've asked Evan to kind of give us an overview of when he thinks about his program brand. I want him to explain how he approached that and how he was thinking about it. So whether you call it a customer brand, that's a term we've started using because of a conversation I've had with someone, whether it's an advocacy brand, it's a sub brand. How do you think about it, Evan? And what was your impetus for just getting started on this?
Yeah, hey everyone. So I think whenever I think about program brand or customer brand, whatever we're calling it here, Liz, I think it's very much around thinking externally and internally. It's sort of like you're looking at two different audiences. Like, yes, you want to come up with something that's going to resonate with your customers, get them really excited. And I think all of our heads go there first, including my own most of the time. But there's the flip side of it. I think it's that thinking that your sort of internal stakeholders, like it takes a lot to get account teams, folks like that, get them really excited about something because as all of us know, have been in this space, like the traditional thing for people to do is just sort of wait out and then wait a couple months and then it'll be gone. Or you sort of just duck out, you just wait. And I'm looking at Angela and just like people that do this, like it's like you don't want if you don't want to like participate with something that endorse something internally that's like doesn't have longevity, doesn't have that sort of gravitas that's something that's going to be here. You just sort of ignore it, you wait. 9 times out of 10, you're proven right for doing so. Yeah, that initiative, it kind of comes and goes. So I was looking for something that would, yes, of course, resonate with our customers. And that's unique in of itself. I'll talk about that in a minute, Liz. But I think something that would internally really captures people attention, get account teams, get leaders, get really everyone excited about it. And it just feels natural, feels organic to how we engage with our customers and how we want to engage with them. So I think that was really the driver for doing something that wasn't just like quick and dirty, because we've all seen those and sometimes we've been part of those, right? But it's worth it. Like it's worth putting in that lot of extra effort.
And I think that, I've loved this topic for so long, and it was because I came from the quick and dirty era, where it's like, just find something really creative to call your program so that it's fun and it's engaging. Because, back when I started my program, they were still so novel. So it's just kind of like, oh, okay, we're just testing the waters, name it whatever you want. That's a fun name. That's cool. And then where we have seen the practice go is kind of like, oops, now we have all these like really random sounding programs, because we don't just have one program, we have 10. Nobody really did the work and the effort that's put into brand work. Okay. So when, there's a whole practice built around brand work, there's all these resources. But really, when it came to branding advocacy programs, it was kind of like, just pick a name and let's go with it. And
Call it Insider. Just call it Insider and be done.
everyone
Yeah.
just call it Insider. You'll be in good company. That was the name of my program, which is so funny, Evan. But my brand team did choose that. It wasn't my choice. I wanted something way more creative. But all that to say, there is a whole practice there around branding, but our side of the fence didn't really tap into that until recently, right? And Bianca, because we've been working on some big projects where with some big companies, right? And we have pushed them to engage with like real brand experts in this area. I was going to let you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so interesting, Liz, you mentioned that, there's been this practice around brand and naming things that hasn't crossed over to programs until recently. And there's a lot of thought going into that now. But then you also start to open up some of those conversations with those branding experts, with those naming experts, and you see it from their side, and trying to reconcile that with what we try and do as advocacy practitioners to make a program stand out, versus what you need to think about from like company naming conventions or things that maybe we haven't scratched the surface of before, we're starting to run into more.
Yes, and that's absolutely true. We are seeing that as a trend. The brand team used to be pretty uninvolved, maybe just like a thumbs up, thumbs down, like it's fine. And what we're finding now is there's a lot more jurisdiction, a lot more control of the program branding, because they have become more proliferate, I guess I would say. They are realizing there's a need to control all the different program brands and names that are coming around. And so I think that we've grown enough that it's gotten the attention of the traditional branding teams, and they are more interested and more involved. And that sometimes causes clashes because they come from a very traditional space, and then maybe we want to stand out, we want to appeal to the customer, we want to stand out maybe from the parent brand, And they
Mhm.
really want to fight against that, right? They don't want anything that stands out too far from the parent brand. Evan, this is a good like point, and we will get to your audience because I think that is very important. But you know, when you were approaching this, how involved were the other teams, other stakeholders within the organization?
Yeah, so I mean, it's so I think I'm so lucky that we have an unbelievable brand design and creative team in-house. Like these people are just unbelievable at what they've done, what they do. But different than engaging an external agency who is great, they don't know your business, right? These
Mhm.
people, these are folks that I work with all the time, and it was that was the first place I turned because I wanted also to be their baby too, right? It's just like, oh yeah, when you pull someone at the last minute, that's okay. They, can run with that, but it's like starting with them really early and
Mhm.
having them involved just in the whole process. Like you're gonna benefit from their expertise, from things they know, pitfalls they know to avoid. Like don't go down certain rat holes. Like they can sort of save time, effort, and just speed to the quality you're trying to get to engage them early. So I would say first place to start is right there, and hopefully people here have their own team in house. If not, tap whoever. But I would say start with the brand team because this is what they do, and they see this all the time, and they're like magicians. So I would always start there. And I think also is one not to miss is like your leadership. Maybe that's really obvious, but like you want it to be something that they feel comfortable talking about. If it's some like wacky name or just something that doesn't kind of resonate with how they perceive the company, especially founders, people that have been really, around for a while, you kind of need them to not just buy in, but it's sort of just they'll proactively be wanting to weave it into events, content, other ways you have of getting in front of your key customers. So I'd say, and of course your account teams, right? Like your customer success, other account teams, like you want them to feel part of it. You want it to feel like theirs as well. And I think that way it'll save you a step later when you're trying to roadshow around, like, oh, what is this? Like, I don't even know what that program is. Like, why would I talk about it? How should I talk about it? So I'd say start early, involve those key teams, and don't be shy, right? You'll have to maybe talk about the why behind this and get people excited, because when it's early they don't may not see like what that exciting vision at the end is, but get people excited, right? You're going to sell your program externally, sell it internally first, start there first. And maybe that's obvious, but I would say don't skimp out on any of those. Like you'll so much better to have them at the early going rather than try to bring them along at the last moment when maybe late for that.
Yeah, I love the why, right? Like getting them behind the why, even before you come up with a name or a visual identity or any of that, the fun external branding stuff is really getting clear and getting everyone bought in on why, because then everything else should stem from that.
Right. And that's a good pivot. So two things. First of all, there's another important audience. We'll get to that, your customers, and how they resonate with that brand as well. But then also branding is more than just a name, right? I mean, there are some organizations out there and we work with them. They have no creative license. It's going to be called something program. Reference program. I mean, it's just got to be clear as day. The bigger the organization gets, the more we found there is no wiggle room for creativity. But the it is so much more than just a name, and we kind of jumped into the naming piece here, but of course we know that when we say brand, it is about what's the mission behind that program, what's the operational values behind that program, how do we speak to them, how do we appear visually to them. There are all these elements, and I think that that is sometimes a huge piece that's missing when people launch programs. It's like, oh, okay, I got a tool, I got a really cool name, and that's the program, instead of what's the whole thinking,
Mm-hmm.
underlying foundation, we call them foundations behind that program. And so just to clarify, when we say brand, we mean all of that. Okay, so I think that's a good place to stop, Evan, and let's just get an overview of your program. So do you want to share your slide at this point, or I can, and if you want to speak to those pieces, or if you want to speak verbally first, whichever.
I can pull it up. Is this
Yeah.
working?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Yep, we can see it.
So I think and just taking a step back, I think it's important. So unlike probably a lot of SaaS companies out there, maybe on this call, our book of business is unique. We're probably two-thirds public sector and
Mhm.
one-third private sector, which is not that common. I haven't run across some of those, and I think it makes branding a program that has to appeal to both very different. So public sector, we're literally talking about FBI, IRS, Department of Homeland Security, like state police, like across the board public sector. On the flip side of that, you have private sector. You might think of Robinhood, Coinbase, Microsoft, Salesforce, folks like those. So very, very different, right? Like you could say like, wow, like how, like that's insane to sort of like try to tackle both. But I also didn't want to like split and have like two programs, which is also kind of
Mm.
there's a risk there. So I think it was very much around how can we tackle both of these audiences that are one who are spinning up new businesses, they're sort of innovating in their field, bringing new products to market or new or expanding markets or innovating in the crypto space. Let's say we have a compliance and investigation solutions for the crypto space. Um, but how can you serve both those audiences? And on the flip side, you have public sector who are looking to keep the space safe, right? Who are looking out for nefarious actors and if there's bad activity happening, way to investigate and shut that down. So it's like on the surface level, it seemed so like almost like insurmountable to like address those two different audiences who both use our solutions. It was daunting, but I thought it was actually worth doing that extra effort to have something that would resonate with both. I think that was the challenge in front of us. It took a little while, but I think it was ultimately worth it to get something that would work for both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so obviously, here the name is Chainalysis Pioneers. So walk
Yeah,
us a little bit of the process of narrowing down to that.
sure. I mean, so a lot of it was like there was an element of like building and launching and creating, but there was also an element of if you're on the other side, if you're on the public sector side, it's like you're not launching or building anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to keep your citizens safe, you're trying to do the right thing, but also like realizing that whoever you are, like you are a pioneer. And we came up with a list of like, I don't remember, like 100 different words, and literally like some we
Mm-hmm.
just like true, just like throwing names out there to like seeing what sticks. And we had a really short list. We had like 100, maybe down to like three. And I think there were some that were like maybe making sense, but it's also global in nature too, right? So there were some like maybe cool words or cool concept, but they may not resonate globally. If you have to like Google like what that word means, that might not be the right aspect. So I think it was sort of keeping the breadth of who you're covering, who you're trying to work with, who you're trying to be attractive to. And I think ultimately it has to resonate, it has to land. It shouldn't need a long paragraph explaining what you mean, right? It's sort of be self-evident of just by saying it. Like if you're going to put this on your LinkedIn profile, your CV, like some crazy name, you're like, what does that mean? Like you have to have like a asterisk and like a long paragraph explaining what it is. Like that may not be what we were looking for. So I think it was really around the innovation, the spirit that you can do things that are not happening before, which is exactly what is happening in the crypto space. Like there's no regulation, there's no policy. This has never happened before. It's like we're still in the early days. We're still in the really early days. And people that are doing this, like you have to have that stomach. Like when I think about this, is like pioneers and like people are like, well, some people died, like literally, like like as like I think of like going out to the American West or whatever. It's like there were some people that were in that horse and buggy and like may have been bit by that rattlesnake or like ran out of water or like just like didn't make it. So it's like you have to have that spirit in you to like be that in this space and come back 5 years. Like there will be more people in it, but like those people aren't pioneers. They're just sort of they're sort of like mid adopters, right? They're sort of like, but it's like you have to have that something special in you to step out of your day job. Like people that are in crypto on the practitioner side in the private sector, a lot of them came from banking or traditional finance, and it's like
Mhm.
could have stayed there. They could have just stayed right there and made a good income and been fine. So it's like people took that leap to get out of their comfort zone to get into something that was different and new and maybe scary and who knew how it was going to land. And I think the same true on our public sector side. Like people could have been fine just in their traditional spaces, like looking at traditional fraud, traditional financial crime, traditional money laundering, whatever you want to talk about. They would have been fine. They had no need to do this. So I think it really resonated for people that wanted to challenge themselves, wanted to be part of something that was new and be willing to maybe not die in the process, but like be willing to like learn and maybe fail and bounce back. So I think it takes someone special. It takes someone that's not the every person. And there's no shame in that. Not every person is a pioneer, right? Like then it wouldn't be called pioneers, it'd just be called person or so I think it really resonated, I think, with both of those audiences. And that was the challenge. And we felt really good that it was something that we didn't have to like compromise, like, oh, it sort of works better over there. It sort of better. We felt like it really threaded the needle to kind of speak to both of those audiences.
It's a good point that we should call out is, the broader your program is, the more inclusive that brand needs to be. I see Bianca's been and I have been on a couple projects together, so we agree on this. I'll let you speak to it, Bianca. It's like it's hard. It's when the broader your program goes, I feel like the harder it is to find a name that actually does make sense. To Evan's point, not everyone is a VIP, not everyone is a rock star. So when we see these bigger programs that have to have a more inclusive audience, what kind of naming are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it is tricky because you want to be inclusive if it's a broader program. If it's an exclusive program, then you have a much easier task in just trying to find something that will define that small group of people who probably have a lot in common, at least from their role perspective and what their role in that program is. But the broader the program is, it is challenging to find, especially evident in this use case here, where public and private sector, they're completely different areas they're focused on, but you still manage to find something that speaks to both groups. And I think that's really the key, is trying to find something that people can see themselves in. If they're going to be in this program, it has to be some part of it has to resonate with them. So it's finding something that hits that sweet spot. But it's definitely more challenging. The broader the program is, the more people that it's open to. You have a program that spans everyone from, managers to C-suite. That's, going to be tough to narrow down a specific name that everybody within that scope feels like they can, that's something that resonates with them.
Yeah, I agree. And so you will get bigger names like Friends of, or Network, or
Community.
or Reference Program, like the more descriptive names as well. Thanks for that color, Bianca. So Evan, you narrowed down to this, but just for the people on the call, can you please just quickly walk through like what were your steps for getting approval?
Yeah, so I mean, the long list was sort of like a small group of people sort of doing it. So I think where we did was we got to 3 finalists, 3 names, three concepts, and put together a little
Well,
deck.
who's we?
I'd say myself and the brand team.
Okay.
Yeah, and sort of mocked up a little bit of each one, right? Just a little bit of like what it could look like, along with the emotion and sort of the what was underlying it, what we were trying to convey with each. And we kind of pitched those to leadership and a couple of other key stakeholders and said, like, we're down to 3. There were hundreds. I think maybe even, I forgot if I maybe even included a slide with like all the hundreds, just to sort of like, okay, wow, there was a lot, and like down to 3, and then really having it be a decision that people feel good about, because a lot of pressure, you don't want to take that on yourself, like, ooh, like, you chose a name and it didn't resonate. Like you want that brand, you want that program personality to be something people internally feel comfortable about. So I would say getting to the big list, shortening it down. I thought 3 was a reasonable place to land on the short list, and then getting alignment around moving from that 3 to a finalist, because I think you don't want to have to like roadshow like 20 names around. It's probably too many. I thought 3 was the right number. I still feel good about that.
Mhm.
And you can mock up the assets, just so a little bit of like what it might look like, talk through that, and let the and kind of get a consensus alignment around, yeah, like that one feels right. And that was kind of how we did it. So I don't know if you need to maybe have more steps, or depends on where you are, or you've got, but I think that works for us. And I think there's a lot of work that went to get to that point. I think you don't
Mhm.
want to shortchange like the process to get from that big list down to that short list, because by the end, I think I liked all the 3. So that way, no matter what, like you're gonna win. Like you're not gonna get stuck with insider. Don't put that in your 3 unless you want that. And if you want that and you're passionate about that, then do with it.
Let me
So
tell you, brand teams do like insiders. So, when you're bringing things to and they like it because it's an easy one. It is inclusive. And one piece I think you mentioned in your application, Evan, was, and this would I say be a new trend as these programs have grown and proliferated. We are finally seeing people looking externally at their competition. So like not just, so now you're not just looking at, okay, what products does my competitor have? You're also looking at what programs does my competitor have? And I'd say that's a fairly recent development that we are finally seeing. Bianca, you were just on a large project where this big enterprise wanted to see what their competitor programs were named. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's great to have that perspective, just to, if you love a name, but if your competitor has called their program the exact same thing, that's not going to work. So it's good to do that, just that pre-work to understand like what other types of programs exist in the space, where might our customers, see other types of programs, and just being able to bring that into your research and say, like, how do we want to show up in this market, in this space? Like, what do we want our customers um, to think about when they see our brand, and how they connect to the brand, and their relationship that they have with the company.
And I wanted to build on that, Liz and Bianca, because like it's you don't want to be reactive, because you're coming up with a name and a program brand that ideally is going to be evergreen. Like it's not going to like swap out in a year or two. And I think the research, at least that I've seen, and I'm curious if you're the same, was like there are like these trends of like waves, and you sort of like you'll be looking in the past if you sort of are just like grabbing a name that someone else had, because their research was whatever the work it was done years before that. So it's like you need to be like true and authentic to your own self, and like yes, you want to do the research, but it's also like just copycat. Like it's not gonna work. You're gonna feel
Absolutely not. In fact, more I would lean into it for differentiation. Like is what you're offering your customers as far as a brand affinity. Is that a differentiator? What kind of emotions does it evoke? You touched on, what do we want people to feel, Evan, and 100%. That is what you're building. That is what brand is. It's an emotional response. And so how can we differentiate it from everyone out there? And because this is still, like, I think we're still definitely a maturing space. There's very few brands that are owning they're winning this game, and you can't touch them. So for instance, the only one we really say is nobody touches Trailblazer. Nobody will try to name their program name Trailblazer. It's taken. Everyone agrees. Like, maybe that will change one day, but there are like 10, 20 named Insider, which is interesting because you wouldn't name your brand, the exact same, but it's, I guess the differentiator is you have your brand name in front of it, and then Insider. But doing the work to say, like, does our brand differentiate itself, and does our customer brand differentiate itself? Bianca, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think just jumping on that as well, when we have examples of maybe you are stuck with a name that is relatively common, you have other insiders or champions programs, and maybe that's what your brand team has pushed you towards, or that's what's going to fit in line with, the naming conventions of your company. We also talk about it not being just the name of the program. So, something else to think about as well, all the other ways that your brand comes to life. I mean, this came up in a project that we were talking about recently, Liz, as well, where, the brand is not just the name, but it's also how how the program, how you talk about it, how it's positioned, the words that are used to describe it goes beyond just what the program's name is.
That's great addition, Bianca. Guys, I'm curious, you guys on the call, will you just, I always love to do this. Programs you are running or have run in the past, would love to just have your take on what was the program name. Always curious. So again, mine was Insiders, but would love for you guys to add to the chat any names that you've had.
I inherited a Champions program, so I did manage a Champions program at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, Champions. Thanks. Yeah, so add them in. All right, so Evan, to Bianca's point, like how you show up, how the brand shows up. And this is something that I think you did really well. And I want you to talk to some of the examples here on the screen of how you showed up.
Yeah, so one of them I thought that I wanted to really focus on was, I would say, this middle one. It looks like a coin. So it's actually called a challenge coin. I don't know if anyone came from like a military or law enforcement background, but like challenge coins were something that were given to like a team or a squadron or a group that they achieved some particular mission in typically originally like a military concept. And it was a way to like build a team and sort of rally around. It was something people would sort of collect and maybe like put in a case and sort of like keep behind their desk with their diploma or some other stuff. And I think the concept of like you earning that, you sort of went through something really challenging to get that. I thought it was something that our customers actually like collect challenge coins. Like they'll trade them. Like I've been at some of our own conferences where we have public sector customers and others, and they will have their own. They will have them from their own agency or from their organization. And there's an element of that. We wanted to kind of tap into the roots of our customers. And I thought like having at launch, like having a pioneer's challenge coin for signing up and maybe doing an initial activity or doing an initial engagement was a real way to sort of at launch and beyond really have a way to ingrain people into the program, feel they're part of something, and sort of attached us to a way that they already exist. And I think, of course, we want to attach to things people have affinity for, and sort of recognizing that spirit, that team element, that accomplishment element. And we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Challenge coins, like, they matter and people care about them. And I thought it was just a cool way to attach our program, which we're looking for them to engage and involve and go beyond and challenge themselves through, to really tap into that element, that aspirational element too. Like being a pioneer, it is aspirational. Either you are there or you want to be there. And I think I wanted to embody that in our program brand and how we talked about it. So I would say that was a big rallying one for launch and beyond.
I love that one because it's like that like there's a physical thing you're tying into a concept that already exists. And although most of us would need to be educated on that, like then you can attach to the weight of something that already exists, which is just brilliant. And then bringing it to something physical that has all that weight attached to it is really, it's very smart and gives them something to physically touch and feel and bring that brand to life that way. I think that was very a really great, interesting thing. I wanted to just make a quick comment on like the names people are sharing. And yeah, I think a lot of the names used to be like hero, like to your point, Angela, or champion or VIP. And I do think we're seeing some broadening, right? As we try to really, like, who is this program really for? Let's be really honest about everyone who's in it. Is everyone invited? Is it a segment? Are they all really heroes? Like, and I think that's just an interesting thing I wanted to call out. But Evan, please continue. So you've got the coins.
Yeah, and I thought another one was, it may not fully jump out on this slide, but it was an award. It's that sort of cut glass slide on the cut glass image on the right. It was for an award, and this was really sort of like one of the big first ways of the program brand into the wild in a really bigger way was for our public sector customers. We run an annual conference down in DC called Trace DC. So it's sort of like you're tracing transactions happening and you're investigating. So Trace DC, and it's a massive conference at the Ronald Reagan Building in DC every July, and there's I think maybe like 600 to 700 law enforcement from across the U.S. and globally that are coming in, sharing best practices, learning and training and all that. And we, for the first year ever, as a company, we had customer awards that were specific to public sector, and the awards program was branded as pioneers, which fit so well to the type of categories we were having. We're having like case of the year, cross-border collaboration, bridge builder of the year, and these are things that actually matter to our public sector customers and maybe everyone in general. It's like, but there's an in-office culture, right? Like they never really stopped working in an office. It was just like that in-office culture, that like having something, a physical embodiment of that award, even if it was a team award, they sort of keep it in an open area or they keep it in a shared office and they rotate it around. But like having that pioneer's name and that brand, it was on our slides and on the screen. And it was a really cool way to see it, not just on a PDF document or on something small, but like on the biggest stage we've got in front of our most key customers, and the head of our government business, just like talking about it and being branded in that way. It was such a natural way. It wasn't like pushing a rock uphill. It felt really organic to the program, the awards program in general, and having this as like feather in the cap of like a really first way post launch to tie Pioneers program to like real world things that are happening and real world programs that we're building. It was such a good boost for the program to give it that visibility in front of and with our best customers.
So trend alert too, right? And we are totally seeing this aligning your program brands. I mean, it's a crowded place now, right? We had the luxury when we started, oh my gosh, you have some kind of crazy customer program. That's amazing. Never been invited to one before. I'm totally in. We're now to the point of like everyone has a million pieces of software that they use. And a lot of those have some type of program, if not 2 or 3 programs that they could potentially participate in. And then just imagine the noise of all of that. And so it makes so much sense to align your customer programs to a singular brand in an effort to then amplify, strengthen that brand so that it can cut through the noise of all those different programs when you have that alignment and amplification behind it.
Yeah, and it opens up the door, like it just becomes a thing, right? It's like,
Mhm.
when are we gonna have that Pioneers, award? Like it, and it just, I would say, I think that's a big importance of branding in general, but specifically these type of programs, like I said earlier, Liz, like you don't want it to feel like something you're trying out for Q1 of
Mhm.
it's like it's baked into the DNA of your go-to customer, right? It's just part of what you do, and it's just a matter of, well, what's next? What are we going to build on top of it? And I think I I I didn't maybe say this at the beginning, Liz, but like, so I've had like, so I've been at Chainalysis over like three and a half years, and like I was like wanting to launch this like my second day there, but I was like, wait, we need all the foundational elements first, right? And I think maybe that's again obvious for this group of all stars here, but like you need the elements underneath of this program brand, right? All those will be under this umbrella. And I think it's about, and why brand, maybe it's like having that umbrella that's extensible. And as you build more programs and more things, like it should nicely fit under that umbrella. And it's not about a land grab. I was having conversations with like a team member, like even like our UX team, they do sort of research, like actually like we can put that UX research like under this Pioneers umbrella. And it's not about, I don't want to run those programs. In fact, I won't be running those programs. And we have amazing experts who run those programs, but it's like, let's put it in there so it doesn't seem like a one-off. And I think that's what changes the mentality. And I think when you can get adoption is when you're like, this is not actually something new. Yeah, the branding element, yes, but it's like it's taking what we're already doing and future things and giving them a home, really giving them a place to live, giving it that permanence and that less transactional nature. It's like, well,
Mhm.
it's one thing and this other thing, this other thing. It's not another thing. It's things that fit together under this brand, under this umbrella. And like, oh, I get it. Like that makes sense to me. It's not just you're not again like you always hear me. It's like not calling in favors, right? These are like opportunities, and they fit under this. Let's talk about like this is another pioneers. Like there's another opportunities within this within the program, and like it sort of makes sense. And I think we've all moved away from that transactional nature of just get the one thing, squeeze people like
Mhm.
on. Like I think this very much embodies that like things we're doing, and also things we've never even thought of yet. Like it should still fit there, and it will fit there. So I think maybe
That,
just I probably should have started with that list, but I was
Right.
just
well, and thanks for doing our platform for us, Evan, because we're huge fans. We're huge fans of that, and we are seeing a drastic shift. It used to be like, hey, I'm just thinking about this one program and getting this one program launched. Now we're going into some, again, bigger organizations where they want to launch a program, but instead of just launching a program, they're thinking way outside of that one program. And it does hold it up, right, Bianca? Like it
Mhm.
does hold up the process because you have to think about how possibly all these other things would, all these other programs might align and fit under it. But it's much easier to do that at day one, like you
Yes.
have, Evan, than try to go back and figure out how all these programs can make sense and have clarity for our customers instead of
Mhm.
really confusing about what are all the options that I have available to me. Yeah, Bianca, you look like you have something to add to that.
I mean, Liz, I have so much to add on this topic. I feel like we could probably talk about it for more than the 15 minutes we have left. But a few of our clients are going through this process now of like trying to take all these disparate programs, and if they were to bring them underneath a portfolio, like the naming piece, how do we get alignment so that everybody knows when they see all of these programs that they're part of, they're part of a portfolio. So how do you do that? And I think, Evan, you talked about bringing all these different things under the umbrella of pioneers. They're not programs that you're necessarily wanting to run, and that's great because then more teams can use the brand and benefit from that recognition that your customers and then internally your peers have as well.
and I think it also takes it away from um you have to convince people and it's doable that it's actually better for what they're trying to accomplish too. You
Mhm.
don't want people to be like, oh, you're just trying to like grab all this program and like run all those like nope, nope. It's like it's actually is this supportive of the goals? Like, are you looking to broaden out? Do you want to maybe reach some more people that you don't, in addition to people you're already working with today within the customer base? Like, we can do that together. And I think also it's bi-directional. And I think that's something that those conversations yielded that too. It's like, oh, you're working with some people today. Well, those people might be pioneers in waiting because they've, helped us, look at UX design or in our UX labs program.
Mhm.
It's like, what elements of those people that we're already working with across different disparate programs, like there might be that mutual benefit of like you
Yes.
can bring them people and they can
Mhm.
bring people. And I think once you get to that realization, you're like, you're done selling, right? Like people will be
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like so it, and I think, and allow that process to happen too. Like not everyone's going to be like, well, of course, I hear, grab this and run with that and put it under this umbrella. So like allow yourself time. And I think I sort of benefited of the other benefit of not doing this so early in my days here is that people like they trust you, like you're going to do the right thing, like you're not going to like you're going to do the right thing for their particular program. Like it'll benefit them. And I think, and I do feel in a way, Liz, for people that have that like pressure on them to like, hey, you got 90 days to like launch your program or like from when you start. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that is hard. And I'm not saying like what I had was common. I think it was lucky that I got to sort of build all the elements and then
Yeah.
go this way. I
So
don't for the
and
geography.
you're describing portfolio alignment. So what we call portfolio alignment. So that would be, when we say portfolio alignment over at Captivate, it doesn't just mean brand, like, okay, all the programs are named the same thing. That is an important element. What is the architecture or what we call like the brand scheme, the naming
Mhm.
scheme for your programs? But then also that piece, the secondary piece, which, we're getting some traction on. People are, yeah, we got to name all these things kind of the same so they make sense. What I think is still in very early days is the alignment between the programs, how they feed each other, how you would maybe identify a potential member of another program from inside a program. Where do these programs align maybe in their journey with your organization or with their level of expertise? And so how do these play together? Is there a piece of content that comes out of a CAB that can then be brought into exclusive content for one of your more large or broad programs beneath? There should be synergy of how the whole portfolio works together. I don't think we're there yet in most circumstances, or it's maybe more of an afterthought. It's not something that's mapped commonly at this time, but there is a lot of room for growth in portfolio alignment. Okay, we're about 10 minutes out. Evan, I would love for you to play your video that you and then if there is one or two questions for Evan, please let's ask him anything that you have on your mind that's come out of this topic of conversation. You can drop it in the chat or you can unmute and just hop on.
But I'm going to try this. If the audio does not work, let me know and we'll figure something out. But I'm going to
Did you share your deck with the option to share audio?
I did it. Let's try it.
Good.
Okay. Wait. Okay.
You are all pioneers. Pioneers are curious and push the boundaries of what's possible. You have a unique perspective to share. Share one-on-one via mentoring or giving product and user experience feedback. Share trends and key insights with a small curated group of thought leaders and peers. Share broadly by showcasing your success or speaking directly to the crypto community. We're building trust in blockchains and a safer ecosystem together. Join our global customer engagement program, Chainalysis Pioneers.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, happy to. And I think for context, it was shared at our biggest global customer conference on main stage on day one by our co-founder and before launch, right? So it's sort of like prime moment to really catch people's attention and it was for launch, and it actually really helped flow through because we had a booth on the expo floor, if you will, like where people were coming by to sign up, raise their hand to get engaged. And it really helped like that people saw something on stage. It was sort of motivational and they were like, wow, like I probably need to learn more about that, or I probably need to like see if that's for me, because like I saw it on stage first. So it was work to do it, but it was so worth it. And again, brand team, like we have an amazing video marketer who's on our team, like to like work through all this with, and I could not do it alone. I would not want to do it alone, could not do it alone. So big shout out to that team for helping and thinking this through and keeping it punchy and keeping it like what it needs to be. So I think another shout out for don't miss your brand and design team, right? Like they're there for you.
Awesome. Oh yeah, we're working together with them instead of fighting them. Although sometimes, man, they are a little bit of a party pooper. I'm just going to say that sometimes they are a little. See, Carolina, sorry, whichever one it is.
Carolina, it's fine.
Yeah, well, so Carolina, you're nodding. Have you had a little bit of a downer moment with your brand?
Maybe once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them like safe bets.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Evan. Does anyone have any color they want to add? Or does anyone have any questions for Evan? Yeah, Angela.
Yeah, this has been wonderful, Evan. I always learn a lot from you. We didn't touch on my biggest question, but I consider we're in a safe space here. Happy to see some other veterans from the space here. I've talked with a lot of people about how there seems to be a concerning trend going on where advocacy was getting more attention and more resources, and now maybe those resources are being pulled back. There's more advocacy team of one and that kind of thing. So when I think about this branding program, I totally understand the value to the customers, and having it branded and packaged is a way to get their attention. I totally understand it as a value to the company. I had done this in previous roles. I even had 2 customers get CX Hero tattooed on their forearm. It was like that branded. What are we seeing of real demonstrated job security of people working in advocacy who have these branded programs? I mean, we're seeing people cut from roles like this all the time. It's super unfortunate. Is it helping the advocacy person's program seem more mature, more real, more valuable if they brand it, if it's got a brochure, if it's got a, like we just saw the video, but like a pitch video for the program? Is it helping job security?
Big question.
It is. I was going to let you take a first stab, Evan, but
I'll start, but I don't want to end. But I think in and of itself, like there's no silver bullets, but I think it's really what is under this portfolio, right? Like if it's only not to pick on like destination like branded platform, but like if this is like only the name for like your sort of destination platform, like I don't know if that's a silver bullet. There isn't any silver bullets, but I would say like if you're able to demonstrate that the value of what you bring to the business is enhanced by that you can bring on more programs, that you can launch more programs that are maybe closer to revenue or closer to product feedback or closer to retention, or being able to demonstrate that you're able to, go deeper in an account because you have a way of engaging or going higher. So I think it's not the brand, like a brand doesn't help you do that, but it's what's underneath of that brand. And maybe if you can say, hey, like I can bring execs to like an executive advisory board because we're able to talk about it in a certain way that's good for them and good for their career growth. So I think it's a lot of pressure to put on anything, even a brand, even an umbrella brand, Angela. Like that's a lot of pressure. You're putting people's like career longevity and safety on one thing. But I think all equal compared to other efforts, yes, but it's all about what's underneath that scaffold, like what's underneath the umbrella. And
yeah, I agree with you completely, Evan. It's if we go back to what brand is, it's the ability to capture the imagination and the affinity of somebody, where hopefully that brand is working as a glue, both internally and externally, and bringing clarity. So if you create your customer brand well, it should bring clarity to them about who you are and their relationship to you. And that will either resonate or it won't resonate. Like it will either be attractive or it won't be attractive. Internally, same thing. For me, brand is all about clarity. What the heck is this? Who is it for? So every program, that clarity of, what are we doing with this? What's the outcome? What's the goal? That's all part of your brand. Internally, people have the exact same questions. What is this program? Why does it exist? Why do we have to have it? So for us, every single program, and we're getting a little into strategy as well, but like every single program has to have a purpose. And what we define purpose is, why does this program have to exist? And you need to have a hard look at, is this already being done somewhere else in the organization? Is there another avenue internally and externally? So if you're going to give value to your customers, you have to ask yourself, can they get that value somewhere else? Do they really have to be part of this program to get that value? If the answer is like, it's a little fuzzy, like, if they could just go backstage through someone else and maybe get kind of the same benefits, the kind of same experience, whatever, then that's not enough value for longevity as far as engagement and interest in that program. Same thing on the back end. Is this program bringing a unique value to the organization? If there's another way around it to get the same value, then you may be in trouble as far as that goes. And then those two things, the value externally and the value internally, that should roll up into then how you brand and position this program. And then that should bring clarity to your customers and to your organization. And then if you do get enough traction with that, it is hard to rip out a program. I'm not saying they're not going to rip out the person, Angela, but there is some longevity to that program. If we could all get to Trailhead, I don't think they're, you know, going to be ripping out Trailblazers anytime soon, but they may have ripped up the people behind it, unfortunately. And so, but it's our goal, it's our job to say, like, this is a necessary program for our customers and for the organization. Can we prove that? Bianca, you wanted to add something.
I was just going to add that, agreeing to both points, Evan and Liz, and this idea of the brand itself on its own is probably not enough. Like Evan said, if the foundation is not there, but when it's part of that bigger picture where it has that ROI and your customers feel an affinity for it, then it strengthens it for sure. Because you don't want to pull something away that your customers have that affinity to and would be upset if it went away or if it changed.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's not bringing business growth and impact, then no brand is going to save you. So it's really the underlying strategy underneath it. But I thought that was a really, really wonderful question, Angela. And people ask really hard and good questions. Okay, we are at time, and I know everyone is going to have to start going anyway. So Evan, thank you
Evan.
so much. Mary, thank you for allowing us to be here. Please come to the next one, which I'm so sorry, I can't even tell you what it is. Oh, it's CS Accelerator. So working with your CS team or instilling advocacy with CS. So that's a really great topic. We'd love to have you, but thank you for coming, you guys, and enjoy your weekend. Woohoo.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
good weekend. Bye.
Bye.